Reflections from Capital Culture. Broadcasting is completely disconnected from the cultural life of the nation. I can say that hand on heart now. As you've heard, I've been saying it 15 years inside the business. Now I'm out and I've had this fantastic job of being a cultural mediator across the entire spectrum. Trying to engage the broadcasters in this has been just like pulling teeth in treacle, walking up the Bonnet Hill. I just don't get it. Even our good friends, the BBC, Public Service Broadcasting, and to get hold of this, you have to think the European Capital Culture is one of the biggest awards the European Union gives to its member states. And again, the clue is in the title, European Capital of Culture. It's a rotational award that goes to a member state, to each state to decide where to host it. It was obvious looking back that it had to be in Liverpool, but they had to have a contest and we had to have a bunch of losers. But to get the broadcasters to get hold of the fact that this was the opportunity to represent the United Kingdom's culture and introduce European culture on a world stage. This was a marketing gold mine, which we in Liverpool have actually played. We've mined it shamelessly, but they just didn't get it. When I took over the end of 2007, BBC had a task force already in place looking at a minority 3-week sporting event in 2012. We didn't have anybody looking at a 12-month culture fest on behalf of the United Kingdom's government. I've pushed and pulled and fought them all the way. Now to the 35,000 hours that BBC transmits on television, excluding Parliament and news. And of the 87,000 radio hours, excluding the radio stations, the BBC eventually said they covered capital culture with 0.05% of their output. I would argue about that because I think that a lot of that was just reportage. They've done some good stuff. I asked for Andrew Marr to do it, or David Attenborough to do a signature series about Liverpool's role in the development of the industrialised world, including slavery. I said, we should have someone like Andrew Marr, David Attenborough. They sent us Alexi Sale. It's about the whole thing about not quite getting what culture actually is. If you look at things like, I'm in Liverpool trying to find £5,000 and £20,000 and £30,000 to keep community arts projects running, keeping community culture projects running, which are engaging up to 500,000 people. Then you listen to the debate about the Ross and Brand fiasco. Then you hear that Wassie's got away with a suspension and he's been docked £1 million. There's only one word that actually comes up to mind, and that's obscene. It's an obscene use of cultural resources. And there's lots of kind of examples we can go through all the time about this. So my point, I'll just keep coming back to, and we can tease this out in questions, is that stop the navel gazing. You know, the broadcasting media needs to stop the navel gazing. It really does, because within 5 years it won't exist if it carries on like that. We're already seeing the erosion of the general consensus to pay the indirect toll tax over license fee. People are now beginning to say, well, what's this for? What's the point of it? As soon as you start asking that question, what is the point? I'll tell you, it becomes very, very difficult to start defending. When you're all sitting down with the health community, and they're telling you that a £30,000 project in communities is raising the well-being of that community to the extent that it's reducing the demand on both GP and mental care, to the extent that the PCTs and the mental care authorities are now ring-fencing money to go into cultural activity. Cultural activity that actually is allowing me and Jimmy McGovern to launch a series of dramas that are going to go around community centres and are going to go into every school. And there's a budget on these dramas of about 30 grand. 4 of them have already been done outside RB, we're going to carry it on. 4 of them, you know, and then it's just an impact on every single person, every single kid across Merseyside. It's costing less than an episode of Hollyoaks. And that's the kind of the questions you have to start asking. So what's the point? And I tell you, it gets more and more difficult as we move along, especially now, when in government, the phrase we're hearing all the time is the world's changed. And you know what's happened recently? We are now in a different era. And they're strapped with cash, you know, and they will look to maximise every single budget. So cultural imperatives will probably start coming out of different government departments. They all know the power of media, they all know the power of communication. They've done things like Teachers TV, which I think is another kind of waste of the level that they're actually spending on it. But they're trying, they know it. Now, sooner or later, with Stephen Carter around, remember, the only thing is Harry Potter glasses are much better than they all once used to be. But with Stephen around, you know, they're going to be gradually going to the idea, like, well, actually, if you total up the BBC public service bill, it's actually over 5 billion. 3.6 licence fee. There's 400 million coming from pensions and wages to fund the free licences that all the old folk get. There's another 500 billion for spying, for support for the World Service from the Foreign Office. And then there's the free spectrum debate that Channel 4 get. You're sitting down there and you're listening to all the health departments saying, we could do with more money for culture because it would increase the impact on our services. You think of the joblessness agenda is costing 10 billion a year. 5 billion quid being spent on public service broadcasting, which is paying people 6 million quid a year to make obscene phone calls to people. It's going to be pretty difficult to actually defend. So, the key question I'm here to pose to you is, what's it all about? What's it for? Think about it. It's actually your industry, it's your society. But the big thing is not the BBC, whether it comes to Salford or not whether it has an iPlayer or not whether BBC Wales is too cosy or not. But actually, do we want to keep the licence fee? Do we want to keep people paying for the licence fee? And if we do, what do we want to actually do with it?